In a small village wrapped by golden rice fields lived a woman named Lena. Her hands were rough from years of work, but her eyes held a soft glow of hope. She had only one dream left in her life: to see her son, Arka, become someone greater than her circumstances. Every morning before dawn, Lena would walk barefoot to the market, carrying baskets of vegetables on her back. The air was cold, and her breath turned into mist. She whispered to herself, "Just a little more, Arka. Mama's tired, but not done yet." Arka, a quiet boy of 12, watched his mother leave each day. He wanted to help, but Lena always said, "Your job is to study, not to worry." Her smile was weary, but it hid the storm of pain behind it: debts, hunger, and endless nights of fear. The neighbors often pitied Lena. "Why struggle so hard?" they'd ask. She would simply reply, "Because a mother's heart doesn't rest until her child's wings are strong enough to fly." Her words carried strength no poverty could silence. At night, after selling everything she could, Lena returned home with a small bag of rice. Sometimes there wasn't enough for both of them. She would pretend she'd already eaten, telling Arka, "Mama's full, you eat." He believed her, but his heart ached. The old radio in their hut played stories of people achieving greatness in the city. Arka would listen, eyes wide, whispering, "One day, that'll be me." Lena would smile, hiding tears. "Yes, my son. One day, it will." And she meant every word. Rainy seasons were the hardest. The roof leaked, the fields flooded, and Lena's feet never stopped aching. Yet, even when her body failed her, she found ways to keep going. "Dreams don't wait for comfort," she often said, wrapping her shawl tighter. One day, Arka came home holding a letter from school. His grades had placed him first in the district. "Mama, I did it," he shouted. Lena trembled, reading the letter over and over, as if afraid it might disappear. Her eyes filled with tears of pride. That night she sat by the dim candlelight, tracing the letters of his name with her finger. Arka, my shining star. It was the first time in years she allowed herself to dream beyond tomorrow. She imagined him in a school uniform, holding a book, smiling. But dreams, no matter how bright, were fragile. The next morning, the landlord came demanding rent. Lena's savings weren't enough. "If you can't pay, you must leave," he said coldly. Lena bowed her head, her heart heavy, but her resolve unbroken. She spent that night walking from door to door, asking for work. Some turned her away, some offered cruel words, but she didn't cry. She only thought of Arka's face, his laughter, his dreams. "I'll find a way," she whispered to the moon above her. Days turned into weeks. Lena began washing clothes for the townsfolk, her hands raw from the cold water. She barely slept, barely ate, but she smiled each morning as she watched Arka leave for school. "Keep going," she told him. "Mama's fine." Arka noticed her clothes growing thinner, her face pale. "Mama, are you okay?" he asked one evening. She replied softly, "I'm stronger than I look." But when he turned away, she clutched her chest, breath shallow, fighting the pain she hid too long. A neighbor found Lena fainted near the well one afternoon. The doctor said she'd been overworking, that her heart couldn't keep up. When Arka heard, his world crumbled. "Mama, why didn't you tell me?" he cried. She only smiled, "Because you were my reason to live." The nights grew quieter. Lena stayed in bed, weak, but still trying to sew old fabrics into something she could sell. Arka refused to leave her side. He studied at her bedside, reading aloud to keep her awake. "You'll be proud of me, Mama," he said. Lena touched his hair gently. "I already am." Her voice was fragile but full of warmth. "Promise me, Arka, no matter what happens, don't stop dreaming. Don't let the world tell you what you can't be." Her words sank deep into his heart. The next morning, Arka found a small note under her pillow. In her shaky handwriting it read, "For my son, when the world feels heavy, remember that Mama's love will carry you forward." He folded it carefully, pressing it to his heart. That winter was the coldest the village had ever known. Frost covered the fields and silence filled the house. Arka worked after school, trying to earn enough for her medicine. But every time he came home, she seemed weaker, smaller, quieter. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Lena called him over. "Look at me, Arka." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You are my dream." Tears filled his eyes. "Don't leave me, Mama." She smiled. "I never will. I'll always be with you. In here." That night, Lena closed her eyes for the last time, her hand still holding his. The candle flickered and went out. Arka sat in silence, tears falling like rain. Yet even in the stillness, he felt her warmth linger, a love too strong to fade. Years passed, but Arka still carried his mother's words like sacred fire. The small house was empty now, yet every corner whispered her voice. "Don't stop dreaming." He repeated it each morning like a prayer against despair. He worked odd jobs before and after school, cleaning stalls, delivering letters, carrying water. His hands grew calloused, his feet blistered, but his eyes never lost their shine. An 8-drop of sweat was his tribute to Lena's unbroken love. Sometimes at night, he'd light a candle near her photograph. "I'll make you proud, Mama," he'd whisper. The flickering flames seemed to nod back as if she was listening, her spirit woven into the wind that danced through the bamboo walls. Arka earned a scholarship to a city high school. The villagers gathered to send him off, their faces proud and misty. He carried one bag, one pair of shoes, and one promise, the letter she'd left him, folded neatly against his heart. The city was loud, fast, and unkind. People brushed past him without a glance. Some mocked his accent, his worn clothes. But every time he felt small, he'd remember his mother's voice, steady and soft. "Dreams don't wait for comfort." He studied under streetlights when the dorm lights went out. Hunger was an old companion, but so was hope. Sometimes he saw mothers passing by with their children and felt a sting in his chest. Longing, love, and an ache that never faded. A kind teacher noticed his persistence. "You've got something rare, Arka," she said. "Determination." He smiled shyly, replying, "It's from my mother." The teacher nodded, sensing that his strength was born from both pain and devotion. By his final year, Arka's grades placed him among the best in the nation. He was offered a scholarship abroad. The night before he left, he visited his mother's grave. Kneeling, he whispered, "We did it, Mama. I'm going where you dreamed I would." The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter. A soft wind brushed his cheek, almost like a gentle hand. For a moment, he closed his eyes and smiled. "I know," he murmured. "You're still walking with me." And somehow, he truly felt she was. Life overseas wasn't easy. The language, the culture, all foreign. Yet every struggle reminded him of Lena carrying baskets through the mud. When his body wanted to quit, his heart whispered, "Mama didn't give up, so neither will I." Years later, Arka graduated as an engineer, receiving honors in front of thousands. As he stood on stage, the applause blurred into echoes of the past, the rain, the hunger, his mother's tired smile. He whispered to the air, "This is for you." After graduation, he returned to his village, not as the poor boy they once knew, but as a man carrying light. The children ran to greet him, their laughter filling the air. He saw himself in them, full of dreams, full of hunger for life. Arka used his savings to rebuild the school, naming it Lena Learning Center. At its entrance stood a small plaque that read, "Dedicated to the woman who taught me that love can move mountains." Villagers wept when they read it. He began teaching there every weekend, telling students about courage, faith, and the power of dreams. "Your beginnings don't define you," he'd say, "only how far you're willing to climb." The children listened, eyes wide, hearts awake. One evening, while locking the school gate, Arka heard a little girl ask, "Mr. Arka, was your mama proud of you?" He knelt and smiled softly. "Yes," he said. "She was proud long before I succeeded, because I never stopped trying." That night he sat by the fields, now golden again. Fireflies floated above like little souls. He took out the old letter, edges frayed but words clear. "Mama's love will carry you forward," he whispered. "It did, Mama, it really did." A tear slid down his cheek, but it wasn't sadness anymore. It was gratitude. He finally understood that her dream was never about fame or wealth. It was about him becoming kind, strong, and unafraid of the world. The next morning, Arka planted a small tree beside her grave. "For every child who dares to dream," he said. The villagers joined him, planting more trees until the hill bloomed with green, a living memory of a mother's endless love. Years later, travelers passing through the village would stop and admire the lush hill. Locals called it Mother's Grove. They said, if you stood quietly among the trees, you could hear a whisper in the wind, "Keep going, my child." Arka stood there one final time, watching the sun set over the fields. "You were right, Mama," he said, smiling. "Dreams never die. They grow, just like love." The wind answered softly, wrapping around him like an embrace that never left.